A decade-long reunion on the way as a pair of AAC foes battle for conference tournament seeding at the end of the regular season. It's the Temple Owls and the UAB Blazers live from the Liacouras Center in North Philadelphia. Welcome to another presentation and final regular season presentation of Temple Owls men's basketball on WHIP Radio. Jacob Smedley alongside Andrew Mayo. Andrew, you look at these two teams. We'll start with Temple coming off of the 5-point loss against Tulsa at home, but winners of 3 of their last 4. How has Temple gotten it done down the stretch?
You see, Temple all year consistently, as we've noticed just as viewers, is they will always lose games at home, on the road, within a 10-point margin. And for them finally getting those games to fall their way right before tournament play is huge. Because if you're Temple and you start to go on a run here in the way that they have, winning 3 of their last 4, you couldn't ask for much more.
And on the flip side, looking at the UAB Blazers, 18-11 so far this season. They're 10-6 in conference play, slotted in at 5th. They've gotten contributions all over the floor, but none bigger than junior college transfer Yaxel Lindenberg.
You see, for him, as we talked about in our pregame video, averaging a double-double in rebounds and points. With that, more than anything, he's showing up on both sides of the court. And just being all around like that and just being the leader of a team and being able to show up on both sides, it's a huge deal as a player.
Lindenberg, the transfer from Arizona Western, as Andrew just mentioned, a little over 13 points per game and leads the American Athletic Conference with 10.2 rebounds per game. Starters just announced on the floor for the UAB as the pregame video being played for the Owls. We'll tell you the starters right here for the Blazers. Eric Gaines in his second year with UAB at the guard spot, along with Alejandro Vasquez. Tony, the other guard for UAB, rounded out by the pair of forwards, the aforementioned Lindenberg and Javian Davis. And for the home Owls, Hyseer Miller, Jordan Riley, Matteo Piccarelli, the guards for the Owls, and Steve Settle and Sam Hoffman rounding the forwards. Andrew, any surprises there? We were talking about Tony before we went on the air. His first start since the middle of February. Any other surprises along the starting line for both sides?
Well, as we said with Tony, having him shift into the starting lineup is very interesting heading right towards tournament play. Definitely more than likely has something to do with that previous game against Memphis with a large lead blown, which we will talk about in a bit. However, going back to Lindenberg's 10.2 rebounds per game, if you're Temple, something you have to pay attention to is who you have matched up against him. Because if you are trying to secure rebounds, which you need to do to get it back on your end, who's your go-to guy? You have Hoffman, a little bit of a size mismatch, so you put Settle there, doesn't quite have the weight for it. Akpomo hasn't played that much this season. It's going to be a huge battle of the boards, and Temple just needs to show up in any way to make it happen.
And on the flip side with Lindenberg, one of the best players in the conference and the league at blocked shots as well. UAB top 50 in that category. The Owls got to watch going into the paint. This is the second to last game of the regular season. We'll get into the standings here. We'll keep going through it the rest of the way, but the Owls sitting as the 13th seed in the AAC. If they win their final 2 games and get a little bit of help as well with a Rice Owls loss, Temple could finish as the number 10 seed in the conference, which means they will get a day bye. And on the flip side, UAB sitting at 5th, they can get as high as 3rd in the conference standings by season ends on Sunday.
That just makes a game like this even more exciting, just knowing that both teams truly, even though they're not really in the top of the cream, still have something to play for, and these two teams are going to come in firing.
Starters set to break the huddle. The Blazers wearing their visiting green uniforms with gold piping around the shoulders and the waist. The Temple Owls wearing their gray uniforms with owls across the middle. Learned just before warm-ups. This will be the last game that either the men or the women's team will wear the gray uniforms. So almost a send-off, if you will, in the final home game Great game last night for the women's squad, clinching a shared title of the AAC. The women's tournament set to get underway on Saturday. Steve Settle and Yaxel Lindenberg set to do the honors at half court. Settle and Lindenberg. And the ball is in the air and it's underway, and the Blazers win it. They're moving right to left. Eric Baines across half court, right hand dribble, gives it off to Tony. Tony to Lindenberg. Hoffman on the switch. Over to Tony on the left wing. Quick ball movement. Gaines in the left corner. Missed it off the side of the rim. Battle for the rebound baseline. And Riley corrals it, but it already went out of bounds. A missed shot for UAB.
Quick ball movement is definitely a way to describe that play. The UAB Blazers did a great job moving the ball there just to show you how quickly they can weave around any defense.
Miller off the inbound from Piccarelli, moving left to right. Dribble in between the legs at the top of the key with Gaines on him. Pass back from Settle. Miller gets it back, gives it to Piccarelli. It's back to Miller. Talked about high Sia Miller, 9 for his last 16 from 3. Riley wide open in the corner, and he stepped out of bounds, tried to get rid of it, and both teams empty possessions less than a minute through.
A play like that shows why precision passing is crucial in basketball, because you have a guy like Jordan Riley, he was waiting in that left corner the whole way, and then they just couldn't execute on the pass.
Gaines gives it off to Vasquez. Vasquez drives down baseline, missed it. Rebound, left-hand putback, and it's tipped in by Lindenberg. We talked about his rebounding. He gets one there on the putback for 2. And UAB takes the early 2-0 lead with about a minute gone here in the first half.
If this minute has told us anything as viewers, it's that Temple needs to have a stronger paint presence. They can't keep getting manhandled like that.
Miller across the halfway line. Gives it to Piccarelli at the top of the key, guarded by Tony. Riley off the switch. Jordan Riley on the right wing. Screen comes from Hoffman. Davis on the switch. Riley to Piccarelli. Piccarelli from 3, and he's fouled by Gaines. Eric Gaines coming out with a contest from the sharpshooter from Milan, Italy, and Matteo Piccarelli to the line for 3.
What's interesting about Piccarelli is that he can almost make a contested shot less contested simply by how insane of a shot it is to take. You see defenders watch Piccarelli go up, and they're not there yet because they truly don't expect him to take the shots he does.
Matteo Piccarelli, the transfer from UMBC, knocks down the first. A little over 7 points per game. He's had struggles, though, on the defensive end. Is out late in some games. Has come back for 3-point purposes as he knocks down the second free throw at a season-high 23 points against the now-ranked USF Bulls. Piccarelli misses the 30, goes 2 for 3, 2-2 ball game. Lindenberg gives it to Gaines, who's slowly moving right to left across the Temple T at center court. Gaines over to Velasquez on the left wing. Gaines drives off the screen, tried to get it to Tony. It went right through his hands, out of bounds. The first turnover for the Blazers.
If you're Temple, you got to take advantage of every play like that you can get. Because if you can get UAB to have a bunch of miscues like that, you can't come down the floor and fail to execute.
Miller across the halfway line, gives it to Hoffman. Miller on the right wing, thinking 3, takes it down, gives it to Piccarelli on the left wing. It back to Riley. Riley off a slip screen from Hoffman. Riley left-hand dribble, pull up Jay from the left elbow, and he sinks it. Bottoms for Jordan Riley, and the Owls have their first lead of the game, 4-2.
What a way to stop on a dime for Jordan Riley, just to not even make a move, but to just quickly stop his movement to shake the defender.
Top of the key is Velasquez, sends it down to Davis. Hoffman on the guard. Davis missed everything, but Lindenberg another rebound. Yaxel Lindenberg, the transfer from Arizona Western College. Davis looked for the matchup again. Takes Hoffman to the weight room. Floater up, no good, and Hoffman wins the battle. Owls going the other way, up 4-2. About 3 minutes gone. Miller on the slip screen to Hoffman, in and out. Looking to complete what would be a Hoffman possession. Gains right to left quickly, slows it down, backs it back around to Velasquez. Screen from Lendenberg. Velasquez sees the mismatch, drives inside, off glass, and in. It may be after 6 on a weekday, but the bank is open for Alejandro Vasquez.
If you're Steve Settle on that play, I think you got to do more. Because for Steve Settle, as we saw looking from our perspective, he seemed to just go up but not really make an effort on the ball. If you're going to be in position where you might foul, and especially if you are going to foul, you got to make sure it's worth it.
Alejandro Vasquez at the charity stripe. The transfer from Salt Lake Community College knocks down the free throw, and UAB back in the lead. It's now 5-4 Blazers. 17:20 remaining in the first half. Miller across the halfway stripe. Gives it to Riley. Riley back to Miller. Miller directing traffic on the left wing. Gives it to Hoffman. Then back to Riley. Riley trapped there by Vasquez. Riley off the screen. Riley into the paint. Drives, float away off. Rebound goes to Lendenberg. Quickly ahead to Gaines. And Gaines will slow it down. He has a mismatch on Settle. Back around to Davis. Davis to Tony. Hands it off to Gaines. Gaines drives on Settle. Swings it to Lendenberg in the corner. Back around to Gaines, who stepped out of bounds. Maybe moving a bit too quick there for UAB.
This is not the high-ranked AAC UAB we know. A lot of miscues here in the first couple minutes, just having turnovers, stepping out of bounds, missing on passes. That's not going to last forever, though, if you're Temple.
Miller across the halfway line. You talk about the Blazers had a 22-point lead on the road against Memphis. Allowed 60 points in the second half as Piccarelli knocks down a 3 from the right wing. Matteo Piccarelli with 5 of the Owls' first 7 points. Temple back in front 7-5. Blazers on the other end. Lendenberg in the corner. There's Tony. Tony off the screen. Gives it to Vasquez. Vasquez to Gaines, and Gaines matched up on Miller on the left wing. It's a switch from Lendenberg. Gaines, Settle tipped it in the air and stole it. Settle in transition. Gaines trying for the steal. Settle slips in and missed the layup off the rim as Riley tried for the putback two-hander. Vasquez ahead, gives it to Gaines, who flushes it with 2. Eric Gaines saying, I will take that, ties it at 7, about 5 minutes gone here in the first half.
What an exclamation point for UAB, really putting some jazz on that one.
Miller spins inside and takes Gaines to the weight room and drops down 2, Temple up 9-7, 15-20 and counting. Blazers head coach Adam Kennedy in his 4th season yelling out signs from the sidelines. Gaines, round the logo, Temple in a little 2-3 zone. Davis, the little floater is good. Javion Davis, the redshirt senior from Canton, Mississippi, ties the game up at 9.
Hands, hands, hands. You had 2 Temple defenders right there with Miller and Piccarelli, and neither of which put a hand on the ball, went right between them.
Hoffman at the top of the key gives it to Miller. Hoffman, the little elbow screen. Miller lost it as Gaines comes up for the defense. Miller looking for another Hoffman screen. He won't get it. Riley on the right wing now. Riley, pull up Jay from the corner, hits the deck, no call. Rebound goes to the Blazers, and they have a 5-on-4 advantage the other way. Vasquez at the elbow. Lendenberg, quick ball movement over to Gaines on the right wing, who cashes it out from 3. Eric Gaines, another shot made. He has 5 points for UAB, who now leads it 12-9.
Gaines must have heard our pregame video where I was talking about his low three-point percentage. Found a way to shut up the color guy.
We do not have a microphone, folks. Well, not a megaphone, as a block there from Gaines. Lendenberg the other way, shoves Settle out of the way, and Riley with a block off the glass. Riley in transition. Riley looking to call his own number, and he draws the foul. Jordan Riley skied up for the block, fouled at the other end, and with 14 minutes left to go in the first half, we got a timeout on the floor. The visiting Blazers lead it 12-9. You're listening to Temple Owls men's basketball on WHIP Radio on YouTube. Welcome back to the Liacouras Center. 14 minutes left to go in the first half. 6 minutes gone. Blazers lead the Owls 12-9 after our first timeout. And Andrew, what have you seen so far? Both teams, it's really been about the ball movement so far on both sides.
I mean, Jordan Riley has really shown a lot of poise this game. As we saw, he had the haymaker block, and then on the other end got the foul call as he's about to shoot the free throws. But all game, he's been facing double teams. He's been moving off ball. He's been setting himself up intelligently, and it's exactly what you want to see.
Subs on both sides as Riley knocks down the first. Shane Dezzoni and Jaleel White in for the Owls as Hoffman and Picarelli exit. For the visiting Blazers, Daniel Ortiz in there alongside Christian Coleman. Number 24, Butter Johnson in there as well. Second free throw is off. Lendenberg with the rebound, gives it to Gaines. Owls in a little three-quarter press as Dezzoni picks up Gaines. Gaines whips it to Lendenberg, over to Coleman. Coleman to Butter Johnson. Ephraim Butter Johnson, nicknamed Butter as a child from his uncle. Ortiz on the right wing. Ortiz over to Gaines. Gaines pump fake. Dezzoni right with him. I was in a little zone defense. Back, 1 second left on the clock. Deep three is off. Butter Johnson with the logo three, a great defensive possession for the Owls.
As we saw there, UAB had that hot potato, quick ball movement offense, but sometimes it doesn't always work and they don't get the look they want.
Miller gives it to Riley, trapped by Ortiz along with Coleman. Blazers, little monkey see, monkey do defense here with the press around the halfway line. Riley to the corner, Settle backs around, gives it to Miller. Miller to Dezzoni, great ball movement for the Owls. White inside, tough fadeaway at the free throw line, no. Fight for the rebound. Ortiz has it in the corner, 2 Owls on him, and he gets it out to Lendenberg. Lendenberg running the break, Gaines on the right wing. Gaines backs out to the key. Passes it around, spin inside from Johnson. He lost it, and it's tipped out by Miller. It will remain with UAB.
Great play there by Miller as Temple's leader, just making sure he gets all ball on that to prevent the easy two.
Baseline out of bounds. 12-10, Blazers in front. And a foul, it looks to go against Riley on the interference. 2 fouls for the Owls, 3 for the Blazers. Gaines gets it in quickly to Coleman, reverse layup, but he's fouled. Christian Coleman, the junior forward from Winsboro, Louisiana, will go to the line for 2. And a tough reverse there, looked like, Andrew.
If you're Coleman, I mean, of course he got the foul, so he's going to get the chance for 2, but you got to wonder, is there a more productive shot you can take than the reverse that he missed? Just because I feel like if you're standing under the rim like that, you got to take the easiest shot necessary just to get the points on the board.
And right off the inbound, Coleman got it. And he missed the first from the charity stripe. Christian Coleman transfers from South Plains College in his 30th game. 3 starts this season. Settle and Riley checking out for Picarelli and Hoffman, who re-enter.
Going back to the unproductive shot, here we go. He missed his first, and now he has potentially 1 point instead of 2.
And Coleman makes that second free throw, 13-10, with 12:30 remaining in the first half. The Owls haven't made a field goal in nearly 3 minutes. Dezzoni, a halfway line. White back to Dezzoni. A little zone from the Blazers. Dezzoni drives, left-hand layup off glass is Pierre Dezzoni. Smooth transition of the hands, gets the layup for 2. On the left wing is Johnson. Johnson, right-hand dribble in the paint, passes it back out to Ortiz, gets it over to Gaines on the left wing. Gaines on Picarelli. Gaines into the corner for Coleman. Coleman on Dezzoni, a little height mismatch there. Coleman spins inside, righty floater, no. Ortiz gets the flyby from Miller for 3 on the right wing, no. Rebound goes to Heisier Miller, and the Owls going the other way. White Is it to Dezzoni? Dezzoni open for three on the left wing. He's got it. A little three by the thigh, and he knocks it down 5 straight for Dezzoni, and the Owls lead it 15-13.
And he stared down Ortiz on the way back. You got to watch starting a beef like that in an important game like this.
Dezzoni now with 5 off the bench. Gaines on the right wing. Gives it to Johnson. Johnson, little hezzy. Pull up Jay and Picarelli's face, and it's pure, or you could say butter, from Butter Johnson, and we're tied at 15. Dezzoni for Miller as they go back and forth across the midway line. Again, zone press here for the Blazers. Hoffman, the pump fake. Right hand drives inside. He is denied by Lendenberg. Going the other way of the Blazers. Gaines on the right wing. Passes it over to Johnson. Lendenberg gives it to Ortiz. Ortiz off the screen, and he sends it back to Gaines with 16 on the shot clock. Under 11 minutes left in the first half. Gaines off the screen. Gives it to Coleman. Coleman, right-hand drive, missed it with the left. Didn't hit rim. Rebound, Dezzoni leading the break. Gives it to Hoffman. Hoffman into White. Gets the flyby from Coleman and puts it up off glass. And Temple back in front, 17-15.
Excellent fake with eyes in the back of his head, knowing where the defenders are around him to get the easier two.
Charlie White now with 2 points off the bench. He's 1 for 2. Gaines across the midway line. 10-20 and counting left to go in the first. Johnson, the pull-up Jay, no. Great defense again by Dezzoni. Continues to play well off the bench. White left to right across the midway line. Stops, pivots on the left block, and passes it back out to Dezzoni. Dezzoni, left-hand dribble, carries it out, gets a slip screen from Hoffman. Passes it over to White. White, shake and bake with Coleman, drives inside. Lefty layup is no good, but he is fouled. Timeout on the floor with 9:53 remaining in the first half. We're going to keep it right here to break down. We've been seeing, Andrew, the Owls really dictating the pace of play with their defense leading to their offense.
Definitely, and speaking of defense so far, UAB is 1 of their last 7 from the field, which has more than a lot to do with Temple's defense. And with it being their second string right now with a couple players like, like Dezzoni and Jaleel White coming in, scoring the last 7 points, mind you, it's so comfortable to see when your bench players can come in and play at the starter level.
Yeah, it's Dezzoni with 5 points, White as well, and Temple really limiting the impact of Axel Lendenberg. Only 2 points. He's got 6 rebounds and a few blocks, but on the offensive end, they've really forced tough shots out of UAB and forced them to, take tough shots around the rim and miss some threes early, some tough shots.
And speaking of tough shots, as we saw with Coleman earlier, took another really unproductive shot coming down. He was guarded by 3 Temple players in the post and just threw one up with his non-dominant hand. And as you're watching, that led to a Temple score. So if you're UAB, the way you turn this around is really just regaining that poise that you saw in the early parts and you're seeing in flashes here. Of course, there's a whole 15 minutes of basketball left to play, both in the first and second half. Or excuse me, not 15 minutes, a whole 25 minutes of basketball left to play. I can't do math. But as we go here, UAB is really just going to have to find their poise again.
Well, that's why we're journalism majors, folks.
Yeah,
not supposed to be
majors.
good at math. But, speaking of math, this is the 5th matchup between the two teams, the first since 2013 in the Charleston Classic. Folks, 10 years ago, C.J. Washington had 28 points for the Blazers in that game. And for those who have followed Temple for a long time, Will Cummings had 17 points in that game. Temple won that one. This is the first home-and-home matchup between the first 2 teams since 1993, before either of us were born and when John Chaney was in charge of the squad.
It is really insane just how long ago that was that you and I on the call weren't even a thought yet the last time that happened. But that also that shows why this has been such a an efficient offensive game, is because these two teams really don't know each other as well, despite being in the same conference. So they can really weave around each other's defenses much easier.
Yeah, and a potential conference matchup. Maybe our producer Mike remembers that 1993-94 matchup between them. A little head nod between Cheney and the Blazers there. 6 years old. Wow. Yeah, the 6-month-old for Mike. But anyways, like you said, Andrew, potential postseason matchup too with the 5th Temple. You know, see how things play out and with 1 game left. But yeah, like you said, first matchup could be a second in the near future.
And if that is what we see, then I definitely like what I'm seeing out of this Owl team.
Jaleel White makes the first at the charity stripe. Javion Davis, Alejandro Vasquez back in there for the Blazers. As White knocks down both. Good to see for Jaleel White. Missed a handful of free throws in the Owls' loss against Tulsa on Saturday. Emmanuel Okpomo into the game for the first time for the Owls, roaming around the paint. Had 5 points, 4 rebounds in Saturday's matchup versus the Golden Hurricane. Vasquez on the right wing gives it to Gaines. Gaines to Johnson. Inside to Davis, a little 2-3 zone from the Owls. Inside to Coleman, who spins, reverses, and the right-handed floater is good. The Owls lead down to 2, 19-17.
Definitely going to need a bigger interior presence if you're the Owls here. You can't have that go on for too long.
Dezone's pass to Miller is picked off. Coleman drives and hit hard on the baseline by Dezone protecting the paint. But a big steal for the Blazers in a little half-court press.
You see, I think by the Blazers there that was a definite foul draw attempt. The Blazer there was coming down before he even thought about shooting.
And Christian Coleman, the forward, who's given UAB some good bench minutes so far. He's got 3 points, a foul, and looking for more here at the charity stripe.
Shooting 1 for 3, but those 2 that he missed were those shots that I talked about in length, those unproductive shots that I really wasn't a fan of.
And right now, both teams a little huddle. It looks like maybe a 30-second timeout, we presume, after the foul. Keep it right here. Both teams with 4 fouls as we creep towards the 9-minute mark. Left to go in the first half, but going back to that pass, just a sloppy pass, it looked like, from Dezone, trying to get it across to Miller, and Coleman, using all of his 6'10" frame, got up and tipped it away. Which
is interesting because Temple has been getting pressed for a lot of this match so far, but they've done a very good job with it. They have really not seemed phased by the half-court press that UAB has given them. And just having a miscue like that could be enough to shift the tide of their comfortability with the defense.
Yeah, both teams have done a great job at limiting the turnovers. Only 5 between the 2 teams. That was only the second Temple turnover on the missed pass. Now both teams break the huddle, and Coleman back to the charity stripe. And Coleman knocks down the first, give him 4 points. Gains the team leader for the Blazers so far with 5. Dezone checking out, Riley checking back in for the Owls. So far the leader for Temple, both Piccarelli and Dezone have 5. Coleman knocks down the second to even the score at 19. 5 off the bench for Christian Coleman. 9:10 remaining in the first half. Some more half-court press for the Blazers. White, it's tipped aside again by Coleman. White has to go back and retrieve it, and that is a 10-second violation. And Adam Fisher and company quickly off the bench to point this out, and we're going to figure this one out.
Adam Fisher heated and is not a fan right here at the moment. And you see, that's what you really like to see out of Adam Fisher. He will always bring the energy no matter if he's up 20 or down 20.
And now the explanation to Blazers head coach Adam Kennedy as Lendenberg comes in for Davis. It's all Fisher along with Bobby Jordan and Michael Hugo, all 3 of them nearly doing the exact same thing, pointing to the official. But because of the tip back court, the Owls will remain in possession. Okpomo back in on the floor with Piccarelli, White, Riley, and Miller for the Owls. For the Blazers, Vasquez, Lendenberg, Coleman, Gaines, along with Johnson.
See, now this is the matchup to watch, the one that you and I, Jacob, talked about even pregame. Okpomo versus Lenenborg. Because Akpoma is really going to be your biggest player here for Temple. He's going to be your biggest thumper more than anything. And it's going to be interesting to see how he matches up against a guy like this who has proven himself.
Widely, the sideline out of bounds, gives it to Miller in the backcourt. Gets it past Coleman, provides some great length on the perimeter. Riley on the left wing. Miller trying to get it to Piccarelli, and he threw it out of bounds. Great team defense for the Blazers to force the errant pass.
See, that pass wasn't even tipped, but for Miller, he put a little too much twang on it. He really tried to wrap around the UAB player there, but couldn't really get it to Piccarelli.
Well, too much twang, add that to the vocabulary, yep. Andrew. Gaines on the right wing, gives it over to Johnson, sends it to Lendenberg. Has the mismatch on Miller. If he wants it, he does. Right-hand drive inside. Akpomo's there for the denial, but Coleman, the two-handed putback. Have yourself a ball game. Christian Coleman, 7 points, and an emphatic two-handed slam. Miller gets it across the midway line. White drives. White, and a jump ball going up. That is Johnson. Owls will have it with the possession arrow their way, but the Blazers, you talked about that swagger that they started the game with. It's coming back, Andrew.
Absolutely, on both ends as well. And just to go back a few seconds, Heister Miller has shown that he's struggling to get the ball even past half court, so this half court press is doing some damage.
White on the right wing gives it to Piccarelli on the baseline as Gaines is on him. Piccarelli backs it out, gives it to Miller on the logo. Miller, a deep three off a screen from Hoffman. No, rebound goes to Gaines. A 6-0 run for the Blazers. They're looking for more with under 8 to go in the first half. Slip screen for Gaines. Gaines, the step back three at Piccarelli's face. It is all nylon. Gaines putting Piccarelli in a blender. He knocks down a three, and the Blazers up by 5, 24-19. Riley way up top to White, who's in the paint on Vasquez. White spins. White no good. It's blocked by Vasquez off the glass. Vasquez leading the break. Gives it to Coleman. Euro step in the paint, and Riley swats it out, but it's going to get called a goaltend. It looks like they're going to look at it.
It looked just a little bit late there, but that would have been a momentum-shifting block there once again by Riley.
Blazers building a lead. We're going to step aside with 7:27 remaining in the first half. UAB leads at 26-19. You're listening to Temple Men's Basketball, streaming live on YouTube on WHIP Radio. Welcome back to the Liacouras Center. 7:27 remaining in the first half. The Blazers extending their lead 26-19, an 11-0 run over the last 2 minutes. Andrew, how have they done it?
I mean, I think more than anything, they have really executed offensively and stopped those miscues, like the missed passes or passing between their teammates' hands, and they've gotten a grip, and they've shown their poise once again that I was talking about they needed to regain. And also on the flip side, Temple seems to have lost their momentum. However, I think all it could take for Temple is to just see one go or see one crazy play to just shift this team, because we've seen that all year. If they can get one crazy play or one giant dunk or a block, that they can change their whole play style.
So a change on the court. The Riley block or goaltend was switched to a block. 2 points off the board for UAB, but a baseline out of bounds. They're just trying to check the clock.
See, what's disappointing about that is that would have been the block to shift the momentum. But I guess they're just going to have to try and do it again.
Gaines set to do the baseline out of bounds, sends it into Coleman. Coleman has had some great minutes, and he walked with it. Christian Coleman, who had the goaltend, or now blocked away. He has 7 points off the bench, but a travel. Owls moving left to right. They haven't scored in nearly 2:30. Miller across the midway line. He's on the floor with Riley, Zion, Stanford for the first time, Piccarelli, and Hoffman. Miller, side to Stanford. Stanford spins, 2 Blazers on him. Miller gives it to Riley. Riley for 3 on the right wing. No. Stanford soars in, couldn't grab the rebound, and Coleman hands it off to Gaines.
Earlier in that play, if you're Stanford, you got to have better court vision, because he had a Matteo Piccarelli leaking wide open in the corner.
Gaines, left-hand dribble at the logo, coordinating the offense. Gets a screen from Lendenberg. Vasquez in the corner, Miller on him. Haven't said Yaxel Lendenberg a lot. Only 2 points, 1 for 3 from the field. Gaines gives it to him in the paint. Lendenberg off glass, and again, folks, do not have a megaphone right now. Lendenberg just heard me and put up 2. Blazers up 26-19, their largest lead of 7.
No megaphone needed. Announcer's jinx is forces unknown.
Riley gives it to Miller. Piccarelli on the left wing, here's it to Hoffman. How's the ball is sticking, and the Blazers are guarding up well. Stanford works in on Lendenberg. Stanford's floater is up and good. Over one of the best shot blockers in the conference and the country, the freshman gets it done. 6 minutes left in the first half. Blazers lead down to 26-21. Gaines of a slip screen from Johnson. Johnson wide open for 3. No, it's off the side of the rim. Hoffman the rebound and gives it to Miller. Miller across the midway line. Back behind the back pass to Hoffman on the left wing. No, rebound goes to Lendenberg. Gaines quickly up to the left wing, moving right to left. Lost his dribble, gives it to Lendenberg. Lendenberg to Coleman. Coleman back to Gaines, and he'll slow things down with 17 on the shot clock, under 5:30 remaining. Lendenberg drives on Hoffman. Lendenberg lost his dribble, floater up and good. Yaxel Lendenberg with 4 quick points. He's now got 6.7 rebounds, and the Blazers now lead at 28-21.
This is the last thing you want to see if you're the Owls, is Lendenberg getting into a rhythm.
Riley to Miller. On trap defense here for the Blazers. 2 on everyone, and Riley shoves Gaines to the ground. Fisher is incensed, puts his hands up in a T formation for a timeout, and Fisher right now getting into it with the official.
If you're Jordan Riley, he was complaining after the call, but I really think that was just a good charge. Really setting his feet, making his presence known, but then falling back right at the right moment.
Yeah, and really something to know, the Blazers defense really outside of the first 5 minutes has been very strong, switching to more of a trapping defense around half court and forcing some tough passes for these Owls defenders, as Fisher does take a 30-second timeout after the foul, but the Blazers a 13-2 run over the last 4:30.
And their defense is showing in the stat column as well, because Temple just in the last 5 minutes have doubled their turnover total, going from 2 to 4. And if that can happen in such a quick way, you got to wonder just how many turnovers can Temple put up if they don't switch this thing around.
Yeah, 4 turnovers for each team, and UAB 19 rebounds, Temple with 8, 6 offensive rebounds for the Blazers, none for the Owls. Sideline out of bounds. Lindenberg gives it to Gaines. Left-hand dribble, right to left, slowly across the midway line. Gives it to Ortiz. And Ortiz with Gaines, Lindenberg, Vasquez, and Coleman. And Gaines, the right-handed royal flush from the junior guard, putting UAB up 9.
Putting a crack in the Liberty Bell right there, making his presence known here in North Philly.
Miller across to Riley. Trap comes back to Riley at the logo, swinging it to Riley and Miller. Riley, Piccarelli in the corner for 3, no, rebound to Lindenberg, and now the Blazers, a full-court pass up ahead to Coleman. Coleman finishes with the right hand, and UAB all over the court. Blazers. A Patrick Mahomes-like pass from Gaines.
Blazers living above the rim, even with the layups, just really getting high up on every shot attempt.
Stanford gets the pump fake from Lindenberg, drives and gets it off glass. A little two-fisted, exaggerated muscle flexor for Stanford. 32-23, Blazers up 9, 3:40 remaining in the first half. Gaines off the give and go, trapped by Stanford and Miller, and a foul gonna get called against Miller, and Fisher slams his hands on the scorer's table, and a technical foul, it looks like, is being called. Technical foul on Adam Fisher.
See, if you're Fisher, of course we talk about it, we love the way he brings the momentum and always brings the energy, whether it's in a good or a bad way, but there's a limit. There's a line in the sand, and I think that he just crossed it. And obviously that line is getting a technical because at this point, now he's just putting points on the board for the Blazers.
Yeah, Blazers will have a technical free throw. We'll keep it right here as a timeout on the floor. So just to recap what just happened, a handful of dunks for the Blazers. Coleman off the exceptional pass from Gaines, and then a trap of Gaines from Stanford and Miller around the halfway line. Blocking foul called on Miller as Gaines tried to get rid of it. And a foul call, could call it tick-tacky, if you will. Close call as Michael Hugo and Chris Clark, the 2 assistants for the Owls, trying to get some explanation here, but Adam Fisher issued a technical foul. But the Blazers continuing to work inside. The ball is flowing, and Christian Coleman with 9 points off the bench. He's been huge for UAB.
And Gaines setting himself now over double digits in scoring with his 10th point on his 4th field goal. And it's just been mayhem here for the last few minutes, both in, once again, good ways and bad. But when you look back over, something to note is that Lindenberg came in, and he was being guarded by Okpomo, and he was being very limited, sticking to that 2 points, but then in a matter of minutes came back and immediately put up 2 more field goals. And something to note, both of those happened when Okpomo was not on the floor.
Yeah, Lindenberg with 6 points, 8 rebounds. He's got 2 blocks on the defensive end as well. Eric Gaines leading the way for the Blazers. 10 points, 2 for 3 from downtown, 3 assists, 2 rebounds. He has 3 turnovers. And as we mentioned, Christian Coleman has 9 points off the bench. He's 3 for 4 from the line. He's now scored 21 points in the last 2 games. He has 8 double-digit scoring games this season, 1 point away from that. But what do the Owls have to get back to doing here, Andrew? You mentioned the turnovers. They've been facing a lot of traps at the top of the key. What do they have to do to close the gap before the half?
I'd say get the ball in the hands of your shooters. Piccarelli, settle, because what keeps happening is Temple's not swinging the ball their way, and then once they finally get it after minutes of just doing cardio, is they're not prepared for it. So if you're Temple, you need to keep putting up shots because they keep trying to get the shot they want, but UAB's defense just seems to be too good for that. So if you're Temple, it's okay to take a contested shot.
Got to move the ball, too, to try and break this zone press. UAB shooting 48% from the field. The Owls shooting 40%, now 29% from 3 as Temple breaks the huddle with Jaleel White, Steve Settle, Sam Hoffman, Jordan Riley, and High Seer Miller. Again, there will be technical free throws to be assessed before the blocking foul. UAB now in the bonus, 7 fouls on the Owls to this point. Other guys with 1, Riley with 1, Miller with 1 on the floor. The Blazers with 4 fouls at the other end, still a few away for the bonus for Temple.
You know, just going into this last shift here with the Owls and in recent play, somebody who's been a major factor has been Zion Stanford, putting the Owls' last 4 points on the board. Their only last 4 since scoring 19.
Daniel Ortiz, the junior guard from Shreveport, Louisiana, doing the honors. He missed the first free throw. He'll get a second. 30th game of the season for Ortiz. Primarily has been off the bench, only 1 start as he makes the second free throw. 1 for 2 at the line for Ortiz. A sideline out of bounds after the technical for the Blazers, who lead it now by 10. Their largest lead of the game. Vasquez inbounds to Gaines. Gaines to Coleman. Coleman, the whip around pass to Lendenberg, who throws it up off glass. The big man duo of Coleman to Lendenberg. It's 35-23, UAB in front. Miller, high pass to White, in and out of his hands. Turnover for the Owls. Vasquez leading the break right to left for the Blazers. And Vasquez, a double dribble, turned it over. A golden opportunity for UAB goes awry. But another turnover for the Owls at the other end.
If you're the Owls, if there's any time to put the pedal to the metal, it's right now. Because sitting right now, down 12, I mean, if you're the Owls, you don't want to go down more. You really want to start to cut the lead now. You don't necessarily need to tie before half to win the game, but you don't want to be down 14, 16 or more.
Miller across the midway line, another trap faced, gets it over to Hoffman on the left wing, gives it back to Miller. 2 Blazers right there. Trap has given the Owls fits here in the first half. Miller, 3 defenders there, and he throws it off the foot of Coleman. 2, 3 Blazers defenders on the ball at all times, forcing these passes. Really tight windows to get him through.
Something interesting to illustrate to you as the listener is just that UAB is so confident in their half-court press that they are leaving Piccarelli and Hoffman alone in the corners because they know they'll force a steal.
Miller, Stanford inside, layup no good off glass, rebound to Lendenberg, quickly to Gaines, sent it to Ortiz in the corner, a little shimmy shake wide open, and he drains it from the near side corner. Now a 15-point lead for the Blazers, the 3 from Ortiz. Miller across the midway line, gives it to Stanford, in and out of his hands, drives on Lendenberg. Stanford, the reverse layup is good, and a foul. You mentioned Stanford's play. He has the Owls' last 6 points, and he'll go to the line looking for 1 more.
Stanford's saying, if nobody else is going to do it, I guess it's my turn. Because if you're, this is great to see if you're looking towards the future of Temple, that Zion Stanford can come in and really take a game over for himself.
Zion Stanford, the freshman guard from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Makes the first free throw. He has 7 points off the bench. Lendenberg across the midway line, faced from Stanford. Stanford looking to steal. Lendenberg drops it off to Tony. Tony, who puts it up for 2, who's back into the game. His first points, 40-26. 2 minutes left. Riley lost the ball. Gains a little floater up ahead to Coleman. Coleman, and he's fouled by Hoffman. Gains again, the little one-arm toss across the court. Another foul for the Owls, and another trip to the charity stripe for UAB.
I'd say that's a pretty smart foul by Hoffman, because if you're Hoffman, you know that you can't really keep up with a guy like Coleman. And Coleman in this game shooting 3 for 4 from the line. On the season prior to this game, he is a 65% free throw shooter. So if I'm Hoffman there, I think that's a very intelligent play to make.
The 5th and the 6th time at the line for Coleman, and as you mentioned, Andrew, right on cue, Coleman misses the first free throw. 2 misses so far. Still 9 points off the bench, 2 rebounds, an assist for Coleman. Mentioned it, one of the handful of junior college transfers for this Blazers squad alongside Lendenberg. Marquise Hargrove as well. Coleman makes the second free throw. 15-point lead for the University of Alabama, Birmingham, 41-26. Picarelli, the two-hand pass to Riley, drives baseline, the right-handed jam. He missed it. Rebound to White. Stanford at the free throw line. 17 seconds on the shot clock. Picarelli trying to bait the foul. Riley draws baseline. He hits the wood, no call. 5-on-4 for the Blazers. Coleman drives, and he is fouled inside by White. Riley still his hands in the air, trying to look for a foul. He doesn't get it, and the Blazers have taken advantage.
See, Jordan Riley is almost acting like a foil to Zion Stanford here. Zion Stanford came in, immediately put up 7 points consecutively, actually, because as we know, Temple, they put up 19 and they went on a drought for a while. And ever since, the only scorer has been Stanford. However, Jordan Riley has done something similar where he is trying to take the game over himself. However, the difference is that he is not making his shots.
Christian Coleman gets the friendly bounce on his 7th and 8th trip to the charity stripe as Quante Berry, after missing the last game against Tulsa, exiting the game against Rice on the road with a hand injury. He checks in for Miller for his first action. And Coleman knocks down the second. He's 6 of 8 from the line. He has 12 points for the bench, off the bench. He has the same amount of attempts and free throw makes as the entire Owls team, as Berry is fouled across the halfway line as Coleman on the other end trying to do a dunk there on a foul.
And if you're Quante Berry, it's good to see you coming back in the lineup, just because he didn't play last game against Tulsa here in the Liacouras Center.
Picarelli, the sideline out of bounds to the aforementioned Berry, gets a screen from White. Trap comes. White trying to get it to Picarelli in the corner. Tony on him. 15 on the shot clock, a little over a minute left in the first half. White drives. Riley lost it off through his legs. Gets it back. Stanford jumping high in the air, calling for it as White knocks down the three. Jaleel White makes it a 14-point game under a minute left. Jaleel White, 2 for 23 this season from three, just his third make of the season. Coleman inside to Lendenberg. Trap comes from Riley, and he's fouled. Axel Lendenberg gonna go to the charity stripe. Another trip for the Blazers. They're 8 of 11 from the line. They average 17 makes per game, one of the best in the country.
Take a look back to that offensive play on the other end by the Owls. As happy as I am to get the Jaleel White three, you got to think, would you rather have a shot from a hot Zion Stanford screaming for the ball, or would you rather have an 8% three-point shooter in Jaleel White chuck up a three?
Yeah, I mean, the made shot solves all the worries at least. As Coleman checks out. Lendenberg hits the first from the line, looking to complete the 2 for 2 at the line. 25 starts, 29 games played for Lendenberg. Makes the second free throw. He now has a double-double. 10 points, 10 rebounds. Berry across the midway line to Picarelli. 30 seconds and counting. Hoffman, the corner three, no off the side of the rim. Fight for it, and it goes out of bounds. Blazers will have it.
Hoffman has been off the mark all night so far, having 0 points on the board. He's 0 for 4 from the field, and especially 0 for 3 from beyond the arc. So if you're Hoffman, I think as the Owls really want to see him start hitting shots, so he can't lose his confidence. He needs to keep firing.
And on that play, a foul from Quante Berry. The Blazers in the double bonus over the limit. So Butter Johnson will go to the charity stripe, and he knocks down the first to make it an 17-point lead, 46-29. UAB, it was close throughout the first, really, 8 to 10 minutes of this one. Ever since, UAB has turned on the afterburners as Johnson makes both. 47-29, 31 seconds left. Shot clock and game clock identical. Owls across the halfway line left to right. Picarelli playing catch with White. Stanford in the paint. Stanford has Picarelli right behind him, wide open. doesn't pass it. Pump fake, now swings it to Picarelli. Screen from Hoffman. Picarelli. Stanford open for three from the right wing. He's got it. Zion Stanford, 10 points here in the first half off the bench. 4 seconds, three, but a Johnson from three, no, off the rim, and that will do it for the first half. Blazers lead it by 15, but a late three from Stanford, maybe hoping to turn the tide.
I mean, being down 15 is a lot better than being down 18 at the half, because just the idea of being able to come back is enough. But when you're near that 20-point margin, it's really hard in the locker room to keep that idea.
UAB Blazers lead the Owls 47-32 in the final regular season home game from the Liacouras Center. It's the halftime break. We'll be back with second half action. You're listening to Temple Owls men's basketball on WHIP Radio live on YouTube. Welcome back to the Liacouras Center. Still halftime, a little over 2 minutes left to go until the start of the second half. Blazers lead at 47-32. Jacob Smedley alongside Andrew Mayo. Mike Becker here producing for us here at the Liacouras Center. Andrew, before we get started in with the second half, a look at the American Athletic Conference standings with just about one game to go for mostly all of the teams on the slate. Both of the teams on the court here with one game remaining. Tulane right now in the 14th seed, 4-13. Temple at the 13th seed, 4-12. Three teams at 5-12, 11, 12, and 13. Wichita State, UTSA, and Rice. Tulsa at number 9 at 6-11 in conference play. ECU 7-10, they sit in the 8th spot. North Texas 9-8, sitting right there smack dab in the middle at 7. UAB, the Blazers, sitting in the 6th spot at 10-6, a half a game behind SMU and Memphis. Both 11-6 in conference play. Charlotte 3rd, 12-5. FAU 13-14, holding down number 2. And the only team that has clinched their spot in the conference tournament, the number 24 ranked South Florida Bulls, 16-1 in conference play. Mouthful there, Andrew, summarizing the standings. Any thoughts as we get to the final game? Really, 2 through 14 still could change.
I mean, before we look at that, something I do want to note is just how South Florida has transcended what a lot of AAC watchers expected of them. Because I know, at least from being on shows with WHIP Radio during our daily programming, that most people picked FAU or Memphis to be the number 1 team by the end of the season. And not only is SFU number 1, but they are ranked, and they are number 1 in a commanding fashion. But to go back to the point here and talk about the teams that are currently in front of us, Temple, this game means a lot because it could either mean being tied with the last place team, or it can mean moving up a few slots, if anything.
Yeah, the Owls can get as high as the 10th seed. Cannot surpass Tulsa because of the tiebreaker in Saturday's game. As we mentioned, UAB, they can get as high as 3rd. They also play SMU, who's right above them in the standings, on Sunday to wrap up the season. Again, we'll have full coverage of the AAC tournament next week. Super excited myself, along with Max Stinenberg and Jake Gable, will be in Fort Worth for both the women's and the men's, covering both Temple Owl teams. Waking the huddles, both teams set to come out. Starters back on the floor for UAB. Tony, along with Gaines, Velasquez, Lendenberg, and Davis for the Owls. Moving now right to left in their gray uniforms is Miller, Settle, Piccarelli, Wiley, and Zion Stanford to start the second half. And a quick foul as Settle tried to get it to Miller for a quick 3.
It's a good thing he got the quick foul, because that quick 3 was not going to end up going in. You see, for Heiser Miller, the thing that he really struggles with is uncontested shots, which is really surprising, because he's actually pretty efficient when it comes to when he has a hand in his face or a guy that he has to cross up. But when he's wide open, especially if he's a few feet behind like he was there, he does struggle.
Miller on the baseline inbound to Stanford. Piccarelli on the left wing. Something to note, the Blazers had a 22-point lead in their last game against Memphis. They allowed 60 points in the second half and lost that ball game as Miller knocks down a 3 from the top of the key, right on cue, and Drew knocks it down, and the lead is down to 12. The Blazers lead it 47-35. Lendenberg on the right wing, Settle on him. Lendenberg taking Settle to the weight room, lost it. Davis goes up with it, and he lost it out of bounds. It will remain with the Blazers on the tip.
It's interesting what's going on with Davis right now. We saw him earlier in the first half head to the locker room but come back. He only has 2 points on the night with 1 field goal, and it's just he's one of UAB's bigger factors, and he hasn't really been a factor here.
Tony gives it off to Gaines, who's at the logo, dribble behind the legs, directing traffic, gets a screen from Lendenberg. Lendenberg slips off the screen, dips inside, right-hand layup, no, gets his own rebound and puts it up off glass. That is Yaxel Lendenberg at his best, the offensive rebound and the putback. He's got 12 and 11 rebounds. Settle at the top of the key, gives it to Miller. 49-35 game, 14-point game. Miller, step back three from the corner, no. Rebound goes to Tony. Blazers moving left to right across the midway line. Gaines, back and forth with Davis, and he dribbles it back to the logo. Gaines, Vasquez off the screen. Alejandro Vasquez, the three behind his head, knocks it down. 17-point lead for the Blazers, 52-35.
Blazers starting to pull away here. If you're Temple, this is the last thing you want to see early in the second half.
Miller on the right wing, gives it off to Piccarelli, who hands it off to Riley. Riley to Miller. Piccarelli in the corner, drives baseline, dips it back. Settle in the corner for three. He cashes it out. Steve Settle, his first points of the game, just his second shot. Only played 9 minutes up to this point in the first half.
That goes back to something we talked about earlier, getting the ball in the shooter's hands and getting them more shot opportunities.
Lendenberg backs it out. He had a mismatch of Miller, and he hands it off to Gaines. Gaines, a screen from Davis. Gaines gives it to Lendenberg, swings it to the corner. Vasquez one more, and he cashes out. Alejandro Vasquez making a withdrawal. He's got 2 threes here in the second half. Give him 9 points now, and the lead is ballooned back to 17. It's 55-38. Nearly 3 minutes gone here in the second half. Settle, Stanford. On the baseline, Zion Stanford, who's played great minutes off the bench. Fade away, mid-range, and he's fouled by Tony, his second foul here in the second half.
That shot only inches off from the and one make. So far, Zion Stanford showing that he is keeping this energy since the locker room. And that's exactly what you want to see as the Owls, because if Zion Stanford keeps firing the way he does, then and you get more shooters around him and players to contribute as well, that could be enough to etch this lead away.
Yeah, we were talking about off the air in the halftime, Miller's play, and just kind of seeing how the Owls will play into the tournament as Stanford makes the first with 1 more left to go in the regular season as Riley checks out for Dezzoni. But, I mean, the great play from Stanford, I mean, hopefully something you can look forward to him in about a week in Fort Worth.
Not only in a week, but over the next couple seasons, assuming Stanford likes to stay in Philadelphia. Because for Zion Stanford to be showing this level of tenacity now could be great for later.
1 of 2 from the line for Stanford, halfway down and out. 16-point lead for the Blazers, 3 minutes gone here in the second half. Left-hand dribble across the midway line for Gaines. Swings it over to Vasquez. Pump fake, pass over to Gaines. Gaines off the slip screen, wide open for 3, and it circles in and drops. 3 threes for the Blazers here to begin the second half. Gaines and Vasquez doing the honors. It's a 19-point lead for UAB. Dezzoni to Miller. Settle on the right wing. Back over to Miller. Miller pump fakes, and he left-hand dribble back to the top of the key. Drives in, pump fake, inside, missed everything. Rebound goes to Tony. Tony up ahead to Gaines with a full head of steam in the paint. Tosses it up, and the one-hand throw down from Lendenberg. And the Blazers are running away with it. 60-39. Gaines lofts it up. The Statue of Liberty slam for Lendenberg. Miller to Stanford. Dezzoni on the right wing, wide open, missed it. Rebound goes to Davis, and he hands it off to Gaines, trying to throw the outlet pass to Vasquez, and Dezzoni keeps it in, and the Owls going the other way. Miller, right-hand drive, lost it. Lendenberg comes up with it. Lendenberg, they have a 3-on-2. Lendenberg inside, and he missed it. Rebound to Dezzoni, as the UAB faithful here now will quiet down as Miller fouled. They've been getting into it over the past few minutes.
Speaking of over the past few minutes, Matteo Piccarelli has been open almost every single play in that corner, looking at the players with the ball, begging to get the possession, but it seems Temple's just not seeing him, or at least not able to connect.
We got break time here with 4:30 into the second half. UAB up 21 and not slowing down yet. We're going to take a step aside. You're listening to Temple Men's Basketball on WHIP, streaming live on YouTube. Welcome back. 15:37 left in this one, and UAB has turned on the afterburners. They lead at 60-39. They made 5 out of their last 6. They're shooting 55% from the floor. Andrew, they have just made shot after shot and forcing Temple to make tough passes and miss shots at the other end.
And this offensive intensity, like you just said, has been brought on the other end as well. Temple has not made a field goal in the last 2.5 minutes. And sitting at 39, it feels like Temple has just been sitting in this. They've been within reach for a while here, but it just seems UAB has taken that away.
The Owls with a baseline out of bounds here. Miller on the floor with Hoffman, Stanford, Dezzoni, and White into the game. Miller gets it out to White on the left wing, gets a slip screen from Hoffman. Miller, White drives inside. Christian Coleman into the game for the Blazers. White gives it to Miller. Off the slip screen from Hoffman on Lendenberg, the mismatch. Step back shot. Miller, no. Rebound goes to Vasquez. Vasquez up ahead to Tony. Tony to Coleman. Back out to Vasquez. Gets the pump fake. Drives down the lane. Up and under. Layup is good. Alejandro Vasquez is taken over. He's got now 8 points here in the second half. 62-39 the lead for UAB. Stanford in the paint. Right hand layup good. Off glass is in. And while there's not been many bright spots offensively for the Owls, really since the first 10 minutes of this one, Zion Stanford has played well.
He's shining like a star at the moment. Has 11 points, shooting 80% from the field, 100 from 3. And more than anything, if you're Zion Stanford, just setting over these, or he's stepping past the limitations that a lot of fans have given to him about that he's not a good shooter, or not an efficient shooter at least, and he's really showing his bright side.
Stanford makes the free throw. The freshman went to West Catholic High, 2-team All-State play. I'm sure he was watching the Philly Big Five, the 2-time winner West Catholic with the game-winning shot that went viral on social media. UAB leads it by 20, 62-42. Lendenberg on Stanford here. Lendenberg spins inside, and Stanford is fouled. Could have been a block. He hit Lendenberg. It's a little experience versus the young guy. There's the big guy, Lendenberg, going to the line for 2.
You see Stanford thought all ball, but in all honesty, there was a little bit of skin contact there, so I think that's a reasonable call. However, if you're Stanford, you can't let that affect your confidence, especially right now.
Yaxel Lendenberg, the junior forward from Pennsauken, New Jersey, knocks down the first from the line. We mentioned best in the AAC in rebounds per game. He has 12 today, still 14 minutes and counting left in this one. He's got now 15 points and make it 16 as he makes both at the line. 64-42. Owls down by 22 with 14:38 remaining. Miller right to left across the midway line. Trap. Dezzoni, Stanford. UAB back again with the traps on the Owls offensive players. Dezzoni spins. Miller pump fakes a 3, dribbles it out, gives it to Hoffman. Miller, a deep 3 from the top of the key. He's got it. Heiser Miller with a hand in his face knocks down the 3. His second 3 of the game. He has 8.
And what were we saying earlier, Jacob? Heiser Miller seems to be more efficient with a hand in his face than without.
Vasquez to Butter Johnson back into the game. Vasquez, who's had the hot hand here in the second half. Hoffman on him on the switch, and he passes it back out to Gaines. Gaines. Stanford on him. Gaines between the legs, crossover, putting Stanford in a blender. Stanford, great defense, hanging with him. Tough fadeaway shot is in as Gaines crashes into the bench, and it looks like they're going to review it. The official, the twirling motion in the air, going to see if Gaines got the shot off.
Obviously, this is just an eyeball perspective, but it seemed as if he got it off. However, would be great for the Owls momentum-wise just to take those 2 off the board. But if you're Zion Stanford, there's not much more he can even do there. Zion Stanford, he was getting, like you said, put in a blender for most of that possession, but he stayed with it, made his presence known, and he was even with it all the way through the shot, did everything but block it, but there's nothing you can do about a great shooter.
Yeah, Gaines between the legs lost it. Just a tough fadeaway on the baseline, in cold-blooded for the junior guard from Lithonia, Georgia, transferred from LSU after the 2021-2022 season. And he knocks down the fadeaway. For now, looked like he got it off. They showed the video on the video board, and that was a quick review. The bucket is good for Gaines. Give him 15 points. Blazers, 7 of their last 8. They wasted no time building on that first half lead, and they led on the road against Memphis. Only scored 26 points and allowed 60 in that 106-87 loss. Today really hasn't been the same. They've controlled the whole game. Miller trying to get it to Hoffman in the corner. Overshoots him. Another Rouse turnover after the timeout.
As UAB gets the ball here, something to look at is the all-around equal opportunity scoring. Lendeborg with 16, Gaines with 15, Vasquez with 11, Coleman with 12. All around, everybody's really, it's all hands on deck over there.
Johnson to Vasquez. UAB, maybe a little Diane Richardson taking that quote with all of the equal scoring. Vasquez against Stanford. He missed it off the side of the rim. High passes stolen from Gaines. Another turnover for Temple. Johnson in the opposite corner. He catches it down like his namesake. It's Butter from the corner. Butter Johnson, his first 3. He's got 7 points. Timeout on the floor. A 24-point lead for UAB.
And just like that, 8 of their last 10, UAB is showing just the true efficient shooting that they have on deck, that they can shoot from the perimeter, they can hammer it down in the post, they can take you transitionally, run right past you and slam it for 2. If you don't keep up with this team, they will execute.
We'll step aside. UAB up 24, 13-10 remaining. We'll be right back after this. $13-10 left in this one, and the Blazers in control over the home Owls, 69-45. 5 with about 7 minutes gone, Andrew. The Owls, just the turnovers, and the Blazers are just taking advantage constantly of Owls' mistakes.
You can say that again, because the Blazers so far in this game are shooting almost 60%, both from 3 and just from the field, shooting 57 from the field and 58 from 3. It's really a scary sight just to see how consistently they're putting the ball in the hoop.
Riley, the slow roll to Miller, moving right to left. Riley, Miller, Dezzoni, Hoffman, and Settle. Riley, the tough finish inside, lays it up and in, slowly gets up off the hardwood, breaks the kind of run for UAB, the quick 5-0 run. Blazers have Johnson on the floor with Coleman, Lendenberg, Ortiz, and Gaines. Inside Coleman, the two-handed rim rocker, and Christian Coleman with 14 points off the bench, and he's been flying around the court.
With just how high in the air this UAB team gets, it's like we're watching the Globetrotters. They jump, and they just seem to be feet above the rim.
Miller on the left wing. It's now 71-47. Miller with 3 off the front of the rim. Rebound to Lendenborg. Axel Lendenborg, 16 points, 12 rebounds. He hands it off to Gaines, who will slow it down with a little over 12 minutes left. And UAB, I mean, if there's a game that kind of gets you ready for the tournament, this is it. Gaines, Hoffman on the mismatch, swings it to Johnson, draws the double. Coleman, ball on the string to Ortiz on the left wing, and he cashes it out. Another bucket for the Blazers. It's raining shots from the visitors from the University of Birmingham at Alabama. Riley from the left wing, Miller on the right wing, gives it to Hoffman on the right block, back to Miller. Settle drives baseline, tosses it up, got it, and one. Steve Settle drives and gets the and one. As that'll lead to another timeout on the floor. 11:34 remaining in the ball game. UAB leads Temple 74-49. Welcome back to the Liacouras Center. 11:34 remaining in the ball game. UAB up 74-49. Jacob Smedley along with Andrew Mayo. Mike Becker alongside us producing. Andrew, this game has just gotten away from the Owls ever since really halfway point in the first half, late in the first half. UAB just imposing their will offensively, defensively. Everyone's touching the ball and they're knocking down shots.
Even the players outside of double digits. You got Butter Johnson has 7, Ortiz has 7. I mean, this team all around is moving the ball, and they're getting everybody at the rim. And what's really kind of crazy to think about is the fact that Temple has found their rhythm, making 4 of their last 5 field goals, including the and one here opportunity by Steve Settle. But it almost doesn't even feel like they have, just because UAB is hitting so many more shots.
And UAB, they've got four double-digit scorers coming into the game. Excuse me, 5. 5 guys averaging at least 10 points per game. Davis, who usually averages 10, he's only at 2 today. Vasquez, he has 10 double figures. Lindenberg usually averages 13. He's at 16. Gaines has 15. So a lot of the usual suspects for UAB, even more, getting touches and scoring buckets.
Something very interesting is that most of the time in basketball, you'll notice that the field goal percentage throughout the course of the game will drop. But UAB, just as we just said, they were shooting near 60%. Now UAB is shooting 59% from the field and shooting 61 from beyond the arc.
Steve Settle at the line after the and one bucket makes the bucket to complete the 3-point play. It's now a 24-point game, 74-50, 11:30 remaining in the game. Gaines left to right across the midway line. He's on the floor with Lindenberg, Davis, Ortiz, and Johnson, and another 3 from Ortiz. Daniel Ortiz with his 3rd 3 of the game. He has 10 points, and it's now a 27-point lead. Miller to Settle, breaking the trap. Another 3 for the Blazers. They're now shooting 64%. Settle from the right wing, a deep 3, no, it's off. Fight for the rebound, multiple Owls hit the floor. Gaines running the break, and he'll slow it down. He'll hand it off to Johnson, but at Johnson, back out to Gaines, who will slow it down. Lindenberg, he's gonna take the wide open jumper, in and out, rebound to Dezzoni. Akpomo back into the game for the Owls along with Settle, Wiley, and Miller. Dezzoni into a 3. He knocks it down. Shane Dezzoni now with 8 points off the bench. Gaines slowly up the midway line. He has 15 points. He also has 7 assists to lead all players. Javion Davis back out to Lindenberg. Off the screen from Davis. Johnson to Ortiz. Ortiz, the step back 3 in Miller's face. He's got it. String music again, and Daniel Ortiz is taking over. The 10th 3 for the Blazers. They're going to call it a deep 2 just on the line, but 10 points off the bench for Ortiz.
I don't think I've ever seen a team shoot this well. And the craziest part is it's not like it's one guy just stringing them along. It's everybody is shooting this well.
Dezzoni in the near side corner, back to Miller on the left wing. Settle open at the top of the key. Johnson right there on him. 6 seconds to shoot. Settle spins inside. Righty layup rolls out, and it's been that kind of night for the Owls offensively. Lindenberg running the break. Lindenberg drives. Right-hand layup off glass is good, and UAB is getting whatever they want. Getting out the fork of the night. They're eating from the field. 60%, 29 of 48, 81 points with still 9 minutes remaining for the Blazers. Wiley off the screen. Fadeaway shot from the right wing. Got it for Jordan Wiley. He now has 7. 81 to 55 with 8:50 and counting in the game. Johnson off the screen from Lindenberg. On the left wing, off the switch to Settle. Miller on Lindenberg, 3-on-3. Lindenberg drives right by him, flips it up. Did not go, missed the shot as Lindenberg, a slow trot to backcourt. Looked like he might have got nicked up, but he's gonna go to the charity stripe to shoot 2.
The thing about that shot that he just took is it almost went in, which is the craziest part, because obviously being radio, you cannot see it, but Lindenberg was hacked to the point where he was doing gymnastics in the air, but he just put a little too much on it, but he almost made the shot, just showing how efficient this whole team is right now.
Lindenberg makes the free throw. He's now 5 of 5 at the line. Nearly a full group substitution for the Owls. Piccarelli, Hoffman, Stanford, Quante Berry, and Jaleel White all in an 82-55 game. Lindenberg missed the second. 1 of 2 from the line, 82-55, Blazers lead. White carries it across the halfway stripe. 8:30 remaining in the game. White looking for options, gives it over to Berry. Blazers still, that trapping defense has forced a bunch of turnovers for the Owls. Berry drives in the paint, wild pass to White, slips inside and is fouled going up by Davis. Javion Davis, who despite UAB's uberly efficient night from the floor, only has 2 points, 3 fouls, 1 from 3 from the usual 10-point per game scorer.
See, with Jalil White's free throw shooting here, and just his shooting in general, is that he is never really a consistent great shooter. And of course, he knocks down the first right as I say that. But Jalil White, so far throughout this night, has actually been shooting pretty well. He's shooting 50% from the field. He's hit a 3, which he has not done in a while. He's 100% from the line. I mean, what more could you ask for except for more points?
Some substitutions for both sides. Lindenberg and Johnson out as White misses the second. Christian Coleman back into the game along with Vasquez for the Blazers, as the Blazers cheering squad right behind the bench cheering on their junior forward as he exits to the bench. Gaines off of a screen from Davis on the right wing. Gaines into Davis, 10 on the shot clock. Davis back to Gaines, tipped aside, and Hoffman plucks it for the steal. Gives it to Stanford. Picarelli wide open in the corner, was calling for it. Berry in the other corner drives inside, passes up a 3, and gets a reverse layup to go. Quante Berry, his first points off the bench, his first points in nearly 2 games. It's now 82-58, 7:30 remaining in the ball game.
I didn't know Kyrie Irving played for Temple. That was a truly acrobatic shot by Quante Berry.
And a foul on Hoffman as he was trying to stick with Gaines. A timeout on the floor. 7:20 left in this one. The Blazers in firm control. They lead it 82-58. You're listening to Temple Owls men's basketball on WHIP, streaming live on YouTube. Welcome back to the Liacouras Center. 7:27 remaining in the ball game. The UAB Blazers all over the Temple Owls. They lead it 82-58. And Andrew, at this point, a lot has to go right for Temple to climb back into it. What's the biggest thing you need to see for them in the final 7 minutes leading into the game Sunday against UTSA, the final regular season game, and even leading into the tournament next week?
Well, there's 3 players specifically in this game who need to step up if Temple has plans of coming back, and that's Heiser Miller to run the offense and score as well. And that's for also, in that process, to get the ball to Matteo Piccarelli, who needs to hit these shots, and Steve Settle, who once again needs to hit shots from beyond the arc. If they want to have big scores to cut this deficit, those are the guys that need to do it. However, when you look forward, I say, why not write this game off and just test out new schemes and new line shifts and new players to substitute in with each other to see if there's something you can get that can click and work in the tournament.
The Owls have, again, one more game on Sunday on the road against UTSA before the start of the men's AAC conference tournament next Wednesday in Fort Worth. Sideline out of bounds. Gates inside, trying to get it to Coleman, comes down with it inside, and he's fouled. Christian Coleman, off the entry pass from Davis, will go to the line for the 9th and 10th time tonight. He's on the floor with Ortiz, Gaines, Vasquez, and Davis for UAB.
Even when things go wrong for UAB, they still end up with a chance to score 2 points, which is the craziest part about this game, is that 2 misses there, including a very easy alley-oop opportunity, and it just didn't go, but here we are.
Coleman knocks down the first 7 of 9 from the charity stripe. 7 makes. Again, Temple only 14 total attempts from the line. Coleman 9 by himself for UAB. 15 now off the bench. He missed the second. Rebound goes to White. 83-58, UAB in front. Berry over to White. Quante Berry, Jaleel White, Zion Stanford, Sam Hoffman, and Matteo Piccarelli on the floor for the Owls. Stanford mixing up Vasquez. Inside, shot goes up, and a foul on Alejandro Vasquez, who can't believe it. But Zion Stanford, 14 points, and he's going to the line for 2 more.
Stanford's presence has been a little bit less than we saw in the first half, but still bringing that energy and going full force and bringing full momentum on every shot attempt that he takes despite the deficit.
Stanford, in his 28th game this season, averages 6 points per game as he knocks down the free throw. He's got 15 today, 4 away, potentially 3 away from his season-high 19 points all the way back in December against St. Joe's in the Big 5 championship. Missed the free throw, went 1 of 2. Coleman across the midway line for the Blazers. Trapped by the Owls. Coleman to Vasquez. Ortiz in the corner. He's hit 3 threes here in the second half. Drives on Piccarelli. Tried to get it up to Coleman, and he's shoved down by Hoffman. Just a foul that you can't have on a wild pass like that underneath the basket.
And beyond just the foul there, which was a bit questionable, UAB is toying with this Temple team. That is, what, the 3rd lob we've seen in the last few minutes? They haven't connected, but still.
Gaines out to Vasquez, who hits another 3 from the left wing. His 3rd 3 of the half. Vasquez, who entered the half with only 3 points, now up to 14, 86-59. Piccarelli in the corner. Stanford slowing it down on the left wing. 67% from 3 for UAB. Stanford misses everything from the left wing, and the rebound goes to Coleman. And Gaines slowly up the halfway line. A little over 6 minutes left in the ball game. Vasquez gives it off to Ortiz. Davis gives them the screen. Gaines, the step back on Berry for 3, no. Coleman, the rebound, 2-handed putback is good, 88-59, and the Blazers continue to rack up the buckets. Berry across the midway line. Hoffman in the corner. Back out to Berry. Talk about toying with the Owls. Gaines with the crossover, then with the bucket. Piccarelli, the left wing 3 is up, no off the front of the rim. Rebound Ortiz, 3-on-2 break, over to Vasquez. The flyby for White is up and in for 2, and the Blazers lead is 31. Hoffman baseline drive, right-handed layup, no, and a blocking foul gonna go against Davis. 90 points for UAB, and there's still 5 minutes left in this game.
Not to insult the Owls at all, but these two teams don't even appear to be in the same league.
Yes.
And the Blazers here just have seemed to transcend a level of basketball that I really haven't seen in this conference so far.
Sam Hoffman at the line, he misses the first. Hoffman, no points, 0 of 4 from the field, 0 for 3 from 3, and he misses his first free throw of the game. Ortiz checking out along with Coleman. Stanford checks out. Hoffman makes the second. Lendenberg back into the game along with Butter Johnson for the Blazers. 30-point game, 90-60 after the made free throw. 5 minutes left. Lendenberg to Gaines. Barry on him. Gaines. What a dish inside to Davis. Up and in and one. Everything going right for the Blazers, and a slick dish from Gaines inside to Davis. Who's really been the only quiet one for the Blazers offensively. Gets the N1 bucket as Stanford quickly checks back in.
When your quiet player can put up shots like that and get it to fall and have the opportunity to get up to 5 points on this free throw, I think that your team's having a pretty good night.
Davis misses the free throw. White quickly the other way, right to left, right hand dribble in the paint, up and under, reverse is good. Jaleel White doing it himself, lays it up and in with the left hand, and the lead back down to 30, and he'll go to the charity stripe for one more. I mean, really, the charity stripe has been, the stat, if you look at it, we have the stats right in front of us. It's been the main one that is equal between the two teams, or around the same number. 73% for the Blazers, 67% from the line for the Owls.
And with the foul shots here, as we talk about fouls, Davis now at his 5th personal foul on the night, as Jaleel White is going to take his first.
Davis, with that 5th foul, he's out of the ball game. The first guy to foul out on either side is Coleman back into the game, who's had a pretty productive night. Gaines left to right over the timeline. Slow dribble under 5 minutes to play. No particular hurry for UAB. Pass inside to Vasquez. Settle on him. Vasquez on the baseline. Coleman backing down Stanford. Draws a double. Coleman, no. Rebound goes to Jaleel White. White up ahead to Stanford. Quickly right to left. Stanford drives. Pushes inside. Right hand dribble, and he is fouled by Coleman. Coleman, that's going to be his 4th. And free throws coming for Zion Stanford. 9th foul of the second half for the Blazers.
See, Stanford buried his elbow into Coleman on that play. If you're Stanford, you got to watch transitionally using your elbow to make your presence known, because a lot of the time that will be called for an offensive foul.
Taj Thweet at the scorer's table, set to check in for the Owls as Stanford misses the free throw. And Thweet coming in for Settle for his 11th game of the season. The redshirt junior from Wildwood, New Jersey, comes in for Settle. Stanford missed the second. He went 0 of 2 at the line. Lendenberg, another rebound. He's got 14 of those tonight. Johnson crossed the halfway line. Double coming, gives it to Lendenberg. Lendenberg holding his pivot, gives it to Gaines for 3. No good. Rebound to Coleman. Another rebound for the Blazers. They'll just hold it on with 4 minutes left. 15 on the shot clock. In the corner for Gaines. Dribbles inside on Thweet, and the two-handed slam for Gaines. Welcoming the newly entered Thweet with a poster. Gaines, his 17th point of the game. It's 94-63.
Speaking of Thweet, if you're Temple thinking about scoring, you've pretty much written it off subbing in Thweet there.
Barry, the turnaround mid-range Shea, talking about scoring. He gets 2. 94-65. Blazers up by 29 points. 3:20 remaining, and Gaines getting the hand sign from Andy Kennedy, the head coach, to slow it down. Screen from Coleman. Gaines on 3 to get on the switch. Gaines drops it off, and Coleman, the two-hand rim rocker. Another slam for Coleman. He's got 19 points, a season high, 19 points and 7 rebounds off the bench for Coleman. Berry taking Coleman off the dribble, lost the dribble on the baseline, sends it all the way back out to White. White, one-on-one now with Vasquez, who picks his pocket. Coleman ahead the break with Gaines, and he'll just dribble it out and throw a cross-court pass to Johnson. Looking for maybe the alley-oop to Vasquez. It's been that kind of night. UAB has gotten whatever they've wanted. Gaines speeds by Stanford, and he dribbles it back out, and set to check in is Will Shaver for the Blazers. Up and in is Vasquez. 98 points for the Blazers with 2 minutes left in this one. White across the midway line. Gives it to Stanford, who will slow it down. 2 minutes left. 98 to 65. Blazers a 33-point lead on the Owls, and a foul against Vasquez.
See, something interesting about UAB here is that their idea of the American could really be offset by these last few games, facing off against a very weak Temple team here, and then going to play UTSA. Because if you're playing teams like that, and then your first matchup is a real team, it can be very scary to see how this team does against that.
Well, UAB, they play SMU on Sunday for a matchup that really could now come down to, if, again, assuming that UAB, holding on to a 33-point lead, wins this game. Them, Memphis, and SMU all tied at 11 and 6. Memphis plays FAU on Sunday. FAU can really lock up the number 2 seed in that game. So if UAB wins that game, they could potentially move all the way up to the number 4 seed, have that double bye. So a huge win here to kind of lead into that big game on Sunday, which essentially could be a tournament preview against the Mustangs. But, I mean, they've done everything right tonight. Defensively, offensively, they've knocked down really everything from everywhere so far tonight.
See, thank you for the correction there, Jacob, because that actually leads me into a new point, is that game against SMU could really just shift the way the UAB plays. Because if they can come out and shoot, not necessarily the way they have here, but shoot even remotely close to it, then they could become a dark horse in this tournament, and they can really set themselves apart.
Yeah, and while South Florida, as we kind of talked about at the half and into our closing here, 15 straight wins, but at times they've looked vulnerable, so it's really anyone's conference here. And in the American, Florida Atlantic making the Final Four last year. Charlotte's played really well, and we just mentioned that really 4 through 6 spot. Memphis has looked like a great team at times, struggled at times. SMU and again UAB, we talked about it, looking like in a different league than the Owls here in this second half. Final few minutes, a few substitutions for the Owls. Taj Thweet remains in the game. Deuce Roberts into the game for the Owls in his 6th game of the season. The redshirt freshman from Kansas City, Missouri. That's played against LaSalle. Redshirted last season. He's into the game, and some substitutions as well for Andy Kennedy's squad. The redshirt sophomore forward Will Shaver into the game for the first time. Butta Johnson back in, Tony, and Barry Dunning Jr., the sophomore guard from Mobile, Alabama, in for the first time as well. Some emptying the bench going on with 2 minutes left in this one.
Something interesting about this Temple team tonight is just they are shooting pretty well from the field. They're shooting 40% from 3, almost even from inside, or just from the field in general. And, I mean, it's just that Temple is not getting enough opportunity because they keep turning the ball over. UAB keeps having longer possession, and it's just not working in the Owls' favor.
Zion Stanford knocks down the first free throw. Now 5 of 9 from the line, 16 points from Stanford to lead all Temple scorers. He's one of 2 Owls in double figures with Jaleel White Stanford makes both at the line, 17 points now, 98-67, under 2 minutes left. And Butter Johnson across the midway line, again getting the stop sign hand from Andy Kennedy to slow it down. And Andy Kennedy briefly, as this game comes to a close, the fourth-year head coach, the all-time winningest head coach in Ole Miss history, as Shaver feeds Dunning, who is fouled and will go to the line. Will Shaver, the forward, transfer from North Carolina, played 2 seasons at UNC, redshirted 2 years ago when the Tar Heels won the national championship. But Pachter Kennedy, one of 5 active coaches with 20 plus wins in 13 of 16 seasons, as Shaver misses the first. I mean, what an impressive list, Andrew. John Calipari, Mark Few, Jamie Dixon, Thad Matta, and Andy Kennedy with the Blazers.
And then that even makes you wonder about this game. How much of this efficient shooting obviously comes from just the players, but how much of it is drawn up by the genius of Kennedy?
Rebound goes to Thweet. Shaver misses both. Stanford drives, 1:33 left. Connor Gall into the game for the Owls, as well as the bench coming out for Temple. Thweet the 3, it hits the front rim. Rebound goes to Ortiz, and Ortiz will slow it down. So Kennedy looking for his 4th straight season of 20 wins or more with the Blazers. After win the final 2 games, they're well on their way to only 1 more win. Giving out the call with 1 minute left. 3 on the way from Tony, who missed everything off the side of the rim. Roberts the rebound under 1 minute left. Roberts, left-hand drive into the paint, lays it up and in. Deuce Roberts gets it to go. His first points of the season off the bench, and the Owls down 98-69, 45 seconds and counting. And Johnson just going to do the slow dribble, taking time down. Under 15 on the shot clock, UAB will advance to 19-11 on the season. And as we mentioned, go to 11-6 in conference play. Butter Johnson, it's Butter again from the deep mid-range, knocks it down. He has 9, and UAB has reached the century mark, 100 points. 15 seconds left. Stanford at the top of the key, crossing up Dunning Jr., drives, gets the bucket and the foul. Zion Stanford now with 19 points off the bench.
And now going to the free throw line, a chance to set himself with 20 points on the night. Now just be a good number to show just how big of a factor he's been for the Owls.
Yeah, and Stanford makes the 3 as it rolls around the rim. He's got 20 points off the bench, 10 seconds left. Johnson gonna dribble it out, 5 seconds, 4, and that will do it. The UAB Blazers snap their 2-game losing streak in a big way. They beat the Owls 100-72 in the program's first meeting in over a decade. The Blazers move to 19-11, 11-6 in conference play, while the Temple Owls fall to 11-18 overall and fall to 4-13 in conference play, and tied at the bottom with Tulane in the AAC. Andrew, I mean, this game, ever since the beginning of that first half, it was all UAB.
Seriously, and with UAB coming out firing, especially since they allowed those 2 late threes by Jaleel White and Zion Stanford, they came out and just simply did not allow anything like that to happen again for a while. And just commandingly coming into this game and making themselves known and showing the team that they are. If you're the Owls and you're headed to the locker room with a loss like this with not even much to say, you got to take a game like this and use it as fuel for your vengeance. And you have to go into the tournament wanting to be the dark horse and wanting to make the Cinderella run in conference.
Yeah, and again, folks, you see that? That is 100 points for UAB. They score 100 points on 61% from the field, 56% from three. And they did it all over the floor with Yaxel Lendenberg, Eric Gaines, Christian Coleman with 19 points off the bench as the Blazers have one more game on Sunday against SMU. Well, final broadcast here at home. Andrew, it's been a pleasure sharing it with you. Again, we'll continue coverage of both teams. Temple Owls women's basketball team clinching a share of the AAC. They will play in the women's tournament starting on Monday. And the men's team right now looking like they will play on day one on next Wednesday. We'll have coverage of that game. For the final home game of this regular season at the Liacouras Center, for Andrew Mayo and our producer Mike Becker alongside us, I'm Jacob Smedley saying so long and have a great rest of your night.